This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Okay, before we get started, check out nectargrowth.com. nectargrowth.com. It's free to join, but not for long. Nectar is an extension of the roller coaster. It's where you can start your own journey of self-exploration and growth. In Nectar, you'll find different topics of interest, daily blogs, affirmations, journal prompts, and you can connect with some of the fantastic coaches that have been on the roller coaster. Soon, we'll be adding videos, meditations, live discussions, and events. Our signature course is a journey of self-improvement, and it's valued at $397. But once you join, it's available to you at no cost. So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you need to change and not sure where to start with Nectar Growth Network. Come join us. You know you're worth it. Now, let's get on with today's show. In elementary school, our English teacher, Mrs. Lamrock, would have a public speaking section every year. We'd have to write and present our speech in front of the class. And yes, as much as I love to talk, I would still get butterflies as I walked to the front of the room when my name was called. I remember some kids, they would have full-blown panic attacks when their names were called. At times, it seemed like it was kind of pointless, and we also thought it was some sort of weird form of torture. But as an adult, those skills have proven to be invaluable. So why do we get nervous at the thought of speaking in front of a group? Joining me today is Mike Acker, author of Speak with No Fear, to share how you can go from nervous, nauseated, and sweaty palms to being a speaker with energy, excitement, and passion. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Lucy. Great to be here with you today. I am coming to you in the midst of lots of noise all around me just because I'm so excited to be here. So we'll just chalk up all the background noise for a moment to that. I'm loving your intro, and I'm so looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's really humid where I am. Normally I have the window closed. I couldn't do it today. It's just too hot. So I'm sure we're going to have a little bit of noise, but this is real life. It's what it's all about.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I love that story because my son is in first grade now, and I'm watching him go into that school routine and watching the different responses of kids, and knowing that this is what I do professionally and helping people with communication. It's so interesting for me to now watch my son and see how he responds to it. But I know I'm jumping ahead. I just loved your intro that much.
Oh, but I mean, that's the thing is that every year, and I went to French immersion school. And I sucked at French. And they would make us do it in French as well. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I could barely get through the English one. But to do it in French as well, forget it. It was a lost cause. So what made you write the book? Where did your sort of story of speaking in front of people come from?
Yeah. My speaking story goes back to the same time that everybody, when you learn how to speak. The problem that I had was I had a speech impediment. And as many people who are listening might be aware of, when you have a speech impediment or you are speaking a second language, people are prone to ask, what'd you say? Say that again. What'd you say? And I don't remember this, but my mom tells me that I got to a spot where I just hated it. And so they took me to a speech therapist, and we worked on my muscles, my mouth muscles, which is often one of the ways to overcome all kinds of ways that you're not heard well. And I leaned in and I really pushed hard, and I did the exercises. I tell people again and again, I can give you exercises, but if you don't do them, they won't work. And I did the work. I leaned in. and I overcame my speech impediment. So I had a problem saying "ja" and soldier and things like that. And as a result of overcoming that, I then got onto stages as a kid and did poetry and all kinds of science fairs and spelling bees and such, all the different things that elementary kids did in the 80s. And then we moved to Mexico. And right after I had gotten to the spot where I was confident speaking, now I was in a different language and I'm speaking in a totally different way than I've ever spoken before. And I'm in front of people, people are making fun of me, once again saying, "What'd you say? What'd you say? What'd you say?" And so once again, I had to overcome this challenge. Then I moved back to the United States after 7 years and had to learn how to get back into American culture, which at that point in time, I was more Mexican than I was American. And there was things that I would switch around, like verbs and nouns get switched orders often in Mexico in Spanish language. And so I was saying things differently, still do say some things differently. And then I had to learn how to do it again. But then I ended up establishing a career in public speaking. And along the career, I would coach people, either staff members or I would coach professionals. I was a pastor. I would coach professionals who were part of my church. And so I would coach a lot of people and do it for free, do it on the side. And eventually I started doing it on the side that grew and grew until an author said, "I want you to work with me and I'll trade you services. What can you give me?" I said. And as we started talking, I thought, I could write a book. I could write a book on the most popular topic I coach about, which is overcoming fear of speaking. And so I did. And that's how the book got out there. I woke up in the morning every single day. I had a full-time job. I'd wake up in the morning every single day and work for an hour and a half, 2 hours on the book. And then I would go off to work. And after a month, I had the draft written, then the hard part, editing. And then I went through the whole publishing process, got it published, and bam, the book took off. And all of a sudden, people were able to relate with it and understand it. They felt like they could connect with me. So quite literally, I've had people call me straight from the book, find me on the internet, call me straight from the book from all over the world. United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Switzerland, Zambia, Singapore, South Korea, China, Australia, UK, Paris, like right next to the Eiffel Tower, and then all across the United States.
So what makes your book stand out amongst the others? Because there's a lot of books about public speaking.
A lot.
There's a lot out there, but you have a lot of reviews and you have a lot of great reviews. So what is it that you're teaching that's so different, that's engaging with people?
Yeah, a lot of the books out there, and there's some great ones. And the number one highest rated public speaking book in the world is Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo. And then the second one is by Chris Anderson. And then there's a public speaking book that I did in college by Stephen Lucas, which is kind of the quintessential one. And then there is all the Dale Carnegie books that are a little bit dated now, but still popular. And then there's my book. So mine is the 7th highest rated book on public speaking in the world, according to Amazon. So yes, what stands apart? I think there's a couple different things. One is I had to learn how to get there. And so sometimes when you read from someone else, you read and it's not someone who's been there, done that. It's someone who knows it and wants to tell you how to do it, but can't empathize with you. If you've ever been through counseling, or if the listener's ever been through counseling, it's nice to have a counselor who goes, I've been there. When my mom died, I went to counseling, and the counselor was able to empathize, feel my pain, and understand some of the things I had gone through because she had been through some similar things. And I was like, she gets me. She can help me because she gets me. And so a lot of people read and they go, man, this guy right here, he gets me. I thought it was interesting on Audible. I have 115 ratings on Audible. And one person said, not a very good book, didn't really connect with it. But if this guy is supposed to be a good public speaker, I guess the message is that anybody can become one. And I thought, well,
that's
I
nice.
disagree with some of you, but yeah, that's kind of the point. That if I can get there, if I can overcome, and if I can stand up in front of people and do stand in front of people and coach professionals around the world, then you can get to that spot too. So a lot of people have just resonated with the fact that this guy, me, has been there and has been able to overcome it. The second thing that people can understand is it's It's got anecdotes, and it's practical. Now, that's, once again, some people don't like that. And so some people said this is just a lot of stories. And in the second edition, I actually toned it down a little bit. But the anecdotes are meant you to connect to a story and take you away from just, this is the textbook way to do it. There's already books like that. This is the textbook way to do it. And then let's give you practical things to do. And then the third way that I think it really connects is it is different. There are some things I say in the book that other books say, but then there are things that nobody really talks about. There's not a lot of people who talk about some of the strategies I talk about. For example, I talk about, it's not about you. Now, there might be some books that cover that, but a lot of them are talking about how to do it. And I'm talking about this internal factor, this internal mindset, and not just positive thinking, but getting into the understanding of when you're talking, you're not talking for yourself. So right now, although yes, I do want people to buy the book. So in that sense, I'm talking for myself. I'm not concerned about me in this moment. I'm not thinking, do people like my voice? Or do people catch that there was a pause right there? So I'm not very me focused. In fact, I don't even know what people might be thinking, but really instead, I want to turn this around and go, how can I help the person who's listening right now? How can I entertain them? How can I keep them company in the car? How can I give them something to think about? How can I give them some practical strategies? How can I ease their fear? How can I make them feel like they're understood? How can I give them a leg up in their professional career? And the more you think about the other person, the more you take the focus off of yourself. So things like that strategy, which is one of the 7 strategies of the book, that strategy right there sets it apart from a lot of the other books that more say, okay, when you get up, do this and this and this, which are all valid, but there's a lot of them written.
And I think that's really what's the important part there, is that you turn it so that you look at, well, how can I help? And,
Yes.
Immediately for me, that even changed, my outlook on what I'm doing here on the podcast is it's not about me. It's about bringing important information to people, information that I've needed in my life to help improve, grow, and learn.
Right.
And that's really is when you stop thinking about yourself, then you do have a different position, because certainly, whether I'm doing a video or interviewing somebody, the minute that you start worrying about, well, did I pause? I stumbled on that word. There's some words that I just stumble on and I laugh. It's like, I don't worry about it. We all do it. But you can get hung up on those things. Is that where that level of fear comes from when people say go to the front of the room to speak? Is because they're afraid of what people are going to be thinking about them?
There's a lot of fear that comes from simply all eyes are on me. And all of a sudden we get very conscientious of the things that we normally aren't conscientious of. For example, if I am looking here in the Zoom camera, and so if you use this in the future live, the person who's listening would be able to see that I have this kind of little bump right here on my head, right up here. And you probably didn't even notice it. Yeah, you didn't
I'm
even
leaning in. I can't see it.
But here's what happens with that, right? It's something I'm aware of. My nieces think it's so gross, and it's not huge until you see it. But when I have this bump on my head, right? So when I get in front of people, what people tend to do is they take something like that, this tiny little flaw, and they start magnifying it. Oh my gosh, I'm on the Zoom camera. I bet everybody can see the bump on my head. Oh my gosh. And so what we do is we get up in front of people, and whatever so-called flaws that we have of any type, so it could be physical, it could be so-called personality flaw, a voice flaw that we think, a content flaw, so we don't know what we're saying, but we have this so-called flaw in our mind. And just like this bump that you can't even see, but someone could get very conscientious about, it magnifies and magnifies and magnifies and magnifies. So something that normally is not a big deal, or it's a small deal, it's a minor insecurity, now I got a bigger stage, and I'm just positive that someone's going to think about this. The reality is they're not, and we'll come to that in a moment. But that is one of the reasons why we get so afraid. We feel like we're being scrutinized. And another reason that we are getting afraid is we've been afraid in the past. and we never dealt with it. So that's actually the first strategy in the book. So say, for example, you're that kid who goes up in front of people and you are thinking about yourself, which as a result of it, you even do worse, like you mentioned a moment ago. Then everybody laughs at you because they're breaking the tension. Then you take that personal, and then you go up in front, and the next time you're nervous again for the same flaw reasons, but you're also nervous because you never dealt with the reason why they laughed for you. And then that builds. And so a lot of professionals, and I find this just very interesting, probably about 2/3 of the people I work with have these wounds that they never dealt with, that they were laughed at, they were made fun of, and they never really came to terms with it. And so they've just been avoiding, running away from, or being terrified of public speaking because of that wound that they never dealt with. And so there's another reason why people are afraid. They got the wound, they're thinking about themselves. And the third reason that I'll bring here is they're doing everything wrong. So, and what I mean by that is there's a lot you can do wrong when you get up in front of people. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to do things wrong. And if you know that you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to feel like you're going to fail. So I play soccer, but I don't play football. And I like watching football. But if I went out on the field with a couple guys and like, hey, let's go throw some ball, I would feel a little bit more self-conscious. And I'm a pretty confident person, but I feel a little bit more self-conscious. Like, shoot, I don't know how to throw a really great football. I don't actually know any plays. I like watching the game, but I don't know everything. Now, same guys, we go out on the soccer field, and this has happened before. Same guys then go on the soccer field. I feel great because I've been playing since I was a kid, and I still play today. So you know something, so you feel better about doing it. And a lot of people, they don't know what to do, which is why those books are so helpful, the ones that teach the skills. Or they don't know what to write, which is what my second book is about, Write to Speak. It's about how to write a presentation, how to put it all together. And they don't know how to create a speech, and so they feel self-conscious. And they don't know who they are, so they feel self-conscious. They don't know really, they've never thought about who they are, so they're always going by the labels that others put on them. So for these three reasons, and there are others, there's fear. You got a fear of what has happened in the past happening again. You have a focus on yourself, and you have a feeling that you don't know what you're doing. 3 reasons why they're afraid. And my book talks about all those reasons and some more to get you to a spot where you can get confident going out there in front of people.
You mentioned that they don't know who they are. How does
Right.
that play into it?
Yeah, this is actually going to be my upcoming book for, I think it's in about 6 months. I have a couple books coming out, but that's going to be called Speak with Confidence. It's actually my whole framework on confidence that I teach people and train in my programs. But the idea is this, that when you get in front of people, and I do allude to this in my first book, is that you need to be you and not try to be someone else. But a lot of people can't even be themselves because they don't even know who they are. Am I funny? Am I serious? Am I outgoing? And so we jump around from personas, we jump around from personhood to personhood because we don't actually know who we are. So in the story, in the book, I tell a story about when I became a senior pastor. And I felt like I knew who I was as an associate pastor teaching kids and youth. I was kind of like the super energetic, kind of hip, kind of, 25-year-old driving my Ducati around. And then I became a senior pastor. And I'm in front of all these real adults, like 26 years old. And I'd get up in front. And they were doctors and engineers and scientists and real adults with real professions. And they had kids, and they even had adult kids. And somehow they're listening to me. And so once again, did you hear the pronoun I keep on using? They were listening to me. And so there's this focus on myself. But then when I thought about me, who was I? Was I super hip? Was I comedic? And so I went on this journey, and I talk about this in the book, where I started listening to different preachers across the United States, like religiously, pun intended. And I would listen to them ad nauseum, and to the point where I would memorize their sermons and the way they communicated it. So I would get in front of the church one week and I'd be like, so everybody, how's it going? And I'd be Rick Warren, like this guy down in Southern California. And then, the next week I would be Mark Driscoll, which was a pastor in Seattle at the time. And he was kind of like yelling at people, look, you got to get your act together. Come on. What's wrong with you? And then the next week I'd be like Andy Stanley. And then I'd become the famous black preacher, TD Jakes. Oh, come on now. I just feel it happening in this place. Come on. And like people are 70 people in the room at the time, a small, tiny church. And I'm bouncing from persona to persona, truly memorizing the sermons 100%, until I realized this, that parts of them fit me as a style, but I needed to find out who I was. So I was going on this like intense search of who I was in terms of what am I like? What's my natural go-to? So when you listen to me, this is my natural go-to right here. If you saw me later on talking with my friend, like we're going to get together tonight, same thing. If you saw me talking to my wife, my son, same thing. So I started speaking like this. Now you want to improve your speaking, but you want to be true to your speaking. In the book, I talk about it this way. In Speak With No Fear, I talk about it this way, that you have two weights. So when you're standing in front of people, you have two weights that you're carrying. You have the weight of the content, that which you're going to say. So everything we're talking about today, I know very well. So it's like holding a weight close to my chest. But if you said, hey, Mike, will you come talk to us about what does it mean to implement research-based innovation into the marketplace? That would be a brand new topic. And so I'd have to go research it. And until I really internalized it, it'd be like a weight far away from my chest. So if you think about front lateral raises, it's where you take a weight and you hold it away from your body. If you take 10 pounds and hold it away from your body, after just a short period of time, even a strong person will start to shake. Now you take a 10-pound weight and hold it close to your chest. Well, think about a mom who maybe didn't have a lot of strength before the baby, but when that baby comes, she easily carries a 10-pound baby close to her chest, easily.
Yeah.
How you have the weight of content. We all get that. The more you know something, the less shaky you're going to be. Now, but you also have the weight of personhood, meaning alongside this weight of content, you have a weight of who you are. And the more true to yourself you are, the more you're holding that 10-pound weight close to your chest. But the more like someone else that you're trying to be, the further away from you you're holding that weight. And so often what happens when someone gets in front of people is they're trying to be like someone else. Now, I gave an exaggerated but true story of me trying to be ridiculous persons. But almost everybody I work with comes in and they have an idea of what they want to be like. It's their favorite podcaster. It's their favorite YouTuber. It's their favorite boss. One person in the military, she came to me and she said, I want to be this kind of speaker. I said, well, explain to me why. Well, she said, when I was a brand new cadet, he came in and he was authoritative and he was large, muscular person. I said, explain to him. And she's like telling me everything about this guy. And I go, okay, I got it. She really looked up to him. And I said, well, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm kind of like this and this. Well, the way that she described him was complete opposite of the way that she described herself. Yet she wanted to be like him. And you see the problem right there. She can't.
Yeah.
And she's trying to. And so the personhood right there is this whole issue that people come in and they're trying to be someone other than themselves. So when you ask, what does it mean to really know who you are and not know who you are? Sometimes people know who they are off stage, but something happens when you get in front of people, in front of 5, 10, 100, you become or try to become someone else.
Yeah. And it's certainly something I can relate to because, I can sit there and have conversations with anybody about mindset, about personal growth, about my journey. And I can just go into like a full on monologue and not think twice about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I turn on the mic and then I start to question myself. It's funny. I can really relate to it. And my husband, his office is right beside me. And he said to me one day, he goes, you sound different when you're just talking to your guests before you hit record. And I know exactly when you hit record. because you sound different.
Interesting.
And I'm like, okay, so what am I doing? He goes, I can't explain it. Because
Yeah.
he knows the difference. He knows the Lucy that shoots the shit any day,
Right.
but he can also hear what I'm saying in my podcasts. So I've been trying to kind of blend that more into, who I am when I turn the mic on. But it's not easy.
No, and to be fair, there is a difference, but it's not the type of difference of changing person, it's changing performance. And what I mean by that is if I stand up on front of a stage, it's different than talking one-to-one, even if I'm being true to myself, because I have to project and talk louder, provided that I don't have a microphone. So there is a grander scale that you need to do some things in, and you need to do some improving. If I'm talking to my wife, she doesn't mind if I get, well, maybe it's not true. Maybe she does mind.
I don't know. Get her on here. Let's find out.
I was going to say she doesn't mind if I get lost in my thoughts. But if I'm speaking in front of a conference, they definitely mind if I get lost in my thoughts. So there is a level of improvement that needs to happen in front of people, but it's got to be improving you, not becoming someone else. And so it's like, if I painting my car into a total different color and changing the body dramatically so that it becomes a race car, that's dramatic. That's my car trying to make it something that it's not. It's not a race car. It's a Honda Civic. It's a Honda Civic Sport, but it's still not a race car. And if I try to put it into a drag race, it's just not what that specific car was made for. And yet if I clean the car, that's just improving the car. So one is trying to do something totally different for it. And, put a hitch on my car. Can you imagine if I put a hitch on my car and try to haul a boat? But what are you doing with a Honda Civic pulling a boat? I'm trying to be something I'm not. But touching up the paint, sprucing it up, making it look nice, that's all the same car. So I'm all for people improving their speech, getting rid of fillers, learning how to use their nonverbals, using how to use the fullness of their breath. All of those things are great, but I don't want you to become a different person. One person came in and said, I need to change the way I talk because I am all over the place and everybody I work with is calm, cool, and collected. And so I need to learn how to speak calm, cool, and collected. And I said, well, tell me about yourself. And they said, well, I'm outgoing and I'm like high energy and I'm just always excited. And I said, well, you're going to have a hard time being calm, cool, and collected. Now you can stay on track, but you want to use the opposite of calm. You want to use the extra power, the extra energy you have, and you want to keep it on track, but you want to be that person. Everybody there knows who you are. So if you try to become someone else, it's not going to feel true to you, and you'll always be a poor imitation. So I tell people again, be the best version of yourself, not the poor imitation of someone else.
Yes, that's important. And people do that in other aspects of their life as well. They keep trying to be something that they're not. They just have to be, you have to be yourself. There is nobody else you can be besides yourself.
Right.
Speak with No Fear probably sounds like a book I should be reading, especially as an aspiring speaker. Where is the best place for people to buy your book and to connect with you?
Absolutely. So if you go to Amazon and write in public speaking, it's going to come up. But if you just go to Google and go Mike Acker, you can get it from Barnes and Noble. You can get it. Somebody bought it in a newsstand at an airport, and they called me from there. So I thought it was cool. So you can purchase it through anywhere. Of course, Amazon's easy for most people. It's on Audible as well. There is a second edition. As for contacting me, mikeacker.com. That's Mike, ACKER.com. And people can even set up a consultation with me there.
Perfect. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lucy, so much for having me on the show.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at the Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by the Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creator.